we are already in the round of 32. We're already switching up. It is the return of the legend Numudan. Has been a little bit AWOL for a while. He comes and goes, and when he comes, people praise him. We've heard top players in the past say about the potential he has. And we're going to see that here. We've got Draft live right now. Best of 3, Baldland, Dry Arabia, and Cliffside. And we are going to be opening up with Cliffside. And I don't know how I feel about... Well, actually, I know how I feel about this cow. I don't know how you feel about it. I'd usually hate to see this. Basically, 2 Chinese picks. But this one usually resolves quite quickly. Usually. Maybe.
Okay, I want to talk about something else, though. Okay. So, like, lean back in your chair and close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to do this. Okay.
Okay.
There's a ban. What is the 4 civs that's been banned in the first round?
HRE, Byzantine, English. Oh, sorry. Do you mean like the 2 per player?
In general.
Yeah, it's gonna be HRE, Byzantine, English, Chinese. They're like, and maybe Delhi, depending on the map pool. Like, those are top.
Right? I am just so confused about the English ban.
Why?
I just don't see it being prio pick that hard.
On Cliffside? And maybe Baldland?
Cliffside, maybe. A little bit. I just don't... I feel like there's other things to be banned instead.
I think the bigger concern I take with it is... I think the bigger issue I take is that the English and Delhi bans are... The way it came out there, like, it's interesting that Starflark banned got the Delhi banned away from him, right? But then Numi bans the English in response. Like, that would have been one of your big concerns. Like, Delhi versus English is a nightmare for English. Most of the other matchups are pretty cozy with. But, like, you know, the interesting part to me has been how Zhuji has become a higher priority, right? We're actually seeing Zhuji a lot more frequently, a lot earlier in draft now. They have been climbing up the rankings. I think it's fair to say that they are a solid A tier civ at this point.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but does Numudan have access to HRE?
He does, but looking at the maps, he's got 1 pick left, right?
Yes, he's got 1 pick. I would I wouldn't mind seeing HRE just picked because of the threat of it. Because the thing is, like, okay, now you pick HRE. Now you pick HRE because if you play get HRE versus Ottomans, you have the freest win of your life.
I mean, yeah, like, but the Ottoman pick, I mean, stuff like this. I've talked about Ottomans variably as a pick. It's not bad. We do get Ivans instead. I can kind of see the logic there with French and Jean already being picked. Like, IU can do quite well in those matchups. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We're
We're just clarifying. So, yeah, it's worth clarifying because I've talked about this before. That it's very confusing because in AoE2 drafting menu, it's the other way around. So, just to clarify, Numudan has
it is Starflark who's banned away HRE English, so Numudan can't pick that. That makes it even weirder that Starflark didn't pick HRE.
With his draft though, China for what, like Baldland, French for Dry Arabia. Yeah, HRE could have made sense for Cliffside. The thing I'm wondering is if the Zhuji is seen as a big threat to him. I think Cliffside can actually be like a pretty good map for Zhuji against HRE. We've actually been seeing that like the Zhuji HRE matchup is quite peculiar because you can't just fast castle as HRE at all. If you do that, they are going to beat you there with Baldy Boys, which are more threatening. So with that in mind, like if you play a longer feudal map like Cliffside, I think maybe leans on Zhug feeling a bit better because obviously Cliffside, you have that short ramp, that easy access. But I get where you come from. Like HRE overall just feels like a really solid pick. I would agree that it probably makes a lot more sense than the Ottoman pick. I have to wonder if there's an element of comfort here from Starflark, which is also interesting because if we're talking comfort, one of the civs I see him frequently tend to is the Abbasids, which got snatched away from him by Numudan.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen Starflark play HRE on land?
That's a good question, actually, because we had him in the midweek musters, and I think, honestly, the most played Civ for him there is Abbasids, by far, right?
Yep.
He's very comfortable with that Civ. I'm trying to think what the other big ones are. Of course, I think he quite often likes having the Roost, but like, there's no way that was getting let through. The irony of like how when Roost got nerfed, everyone thought they were dead Civ, and now we just find them literally being completely ban-worthy again is quite hilarious to me. But
so, I'm just quickly scrolling through Starflark's AoE4 world here. I am currently on page 5, and the only thing I can resemble HRE is an Order of the Dragon pick. This is not including custom games, by the way.
Is that just because he assumes it's going to get banned all the time?
Maybe.
Because, like, the problem with that thought process is it's kind of semi-smart until you realize that people can check your data and see that you haven't practiced it, so then they can save a ban.
Yeah, so we are in a really interesting position, right? Because this is, I want to say it's an unorthodox draft. And this is a really good matchup for Starflark to start this off with, though, because JD on Cliffside as a beginning, you have a really short distance, which makes actually one of the options that JD has, which is JD Tower Rush, an option. And it's also against Byzantines, and JD against Byzantines is a fantastic option, in my opinion.
So the cool thing about JD versus Byzantines is if you starve their vision on the map, you can trick them, right? Like, basically, the expectation is Jean is going to build a lot of knights, so you have to build a lot of Limitane, maybe javelins too. Well, the cool thing you can do with Jean there is just actually go archers, spears, right? And then flood your opponent. Castle's also a possibility. Like, the reality is that the Byzantines should be reluctant to come out on the map, and you can leverage that to try and tech ahead. There's an argument like the 9-minute window we talked about before, where Byzantines have this really strong push time. If you had the list civs they don't necessarily want to do that against, Jean is a high one, right? Because it comes with a much higher risk. And although you have a big advantage on count at like 9 minutes, it's not to the point you instantly kill Jean, which is just now threatening XP. So yeah, quite interesting. We might see that outpost rush you talked about. It's definitely a short enough distance. I do think that play involves an element of gamble. If your opponent gets the forward gold but the back berries, they should be able to gather enough gold to not care about that and then go for the berries, right? So it's always a gamble in that way. I think that's why we've seen a lot of people maybe leaning away from it. Unless they can get a second layer of play. I know in particular in transhumans, we start to see players going for the cross map dock drop into racks, into like a whole base and outpost rush, right? So like, if there was more you could do here, I'm just not sure I see a world in which Jean would want to walk forward, build a racks, and then build an outpost, if that makes sense.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But like, if you don't have the racks, right? And you get seen building the outpost, like, Jean is not going to die to villages, right? Let's just be real about that, because it's 150 HP village.
Yeah, that's not happening.
But the outpost.
The outpost, yes. I definitely think the outpost can be an option. Of course, very depending on spawn, right? If it's a forward berry and gold, absolutely go for the outpost. If it's a back one, yeah, maybe think about it a little bit. One of the things that we haven't seen a lot, though, in KPMM or on ladder, mostly because JD just has never been picked realistically. I have tried this on Hill and Dale. I cannot figure out a good Chamber of Commerce build or a good Pro Scout build.
That's because
there was a two-part answer there. Don't worry, you do not want to go Chamber of Commerce or Cliffside.
Yeah.
But
so
still,
when do you want them to go Chamber of Commerce here?
No. It was a
call to action from everyone in the chat. Can you please send your build order to Cap?
Please send them in my DMs. It's the same one that's my Discord is the same as down below. But no, it was more it was more into the Pro Scout, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard, right? Because one of the things that JD does is that she loses a villager when she ages up.
True.
She doesn't actually have the best starting resources, and she also doesn't have the French eco bonus of drop-off buildings or eco buildings. So a mill, a lumber camp, and a mining camp being cheaper. So that means that, for example, normal things you would do as French, which is like you would start off with both a mining camp and a mill, get wheelbarrow because it's cheaper. You suddenly have now burned through all of your wood, which means that you can't even get wheelbarrow without gathering wood anymore as JD. So it really locks her down into this kind of school of cavalry civ that French is necessarily.
So the thing about Jean is the extreme version of French from the outskill your opponent to build an advantage, right? Like you have to kill economy. And if you do that, you get doubly rewarded because you snowball Jean, you then force them to have to like react more defensively because they don't want to play out onto the map further. I do agree that there's this weird thing with Jean right now where I don't know if I want to say there's not enough mid-map objectives. Maybe there's not enough for them to aim for, right? We talk about diversity of like options. I think Jean in the early game, you hit it on the head. Like it has to be knights, right? Every time it's like, oh yeah, knights just make sense. Unless you're throwing a giant jabet like we talked about in this one where you're expecting Mass Limitane, so if you go archers, you can shock and awe and kill your opponent. But it does feel like this Civ sometimes has to work a lot harder to pull off that leg over than other Civs, if that makes sense.
So JD Sanctity?
I don't think we want to go down this avenue because I can already see the death threats from gold level players in my DMs. Why have you done this? Why is I had this at the deli, now I had to have Jean too? Oh, but no, it's definitely a weird one. I think when Jean first came out, there was an immediate reaction of she's OP, and then obviously it was nerfed, but people adjusted. I don't think it's a doom and gloom though. I think that this is the right type of map where you can make this happen. It also throws a wrench in the works for Numudan's draft down the line, right? You've still got things like Chinese and French, which are very, very powerful picks. Like that's an S and an A tier pick Civ combo. And there are matchups where they could still be viable. But before we get to that, we have to hop into Cliffside. Game number 1, ready to get underway between Numudan and Starflark.
Yeah, this is really interesting. We'll see what option. I don't think anything Dark Age shenanigans is gonna happen. And the first thing we noticed, Numudan's Berry Patch. That is prime Tower Rush territory.
It is begging for it. The gold, definitely not. The other thing that's going to be annoying is like, is good Starflark isn't going to be going for an outpost rush, because if you look at just a tiny bit north, you'd see that he has the berries there as well. Like, I actually think Numu, if this was against someone like a Mongol Civ, this would be a really sucky spawn. But against Jean, it's one that you can work with because he also got those resources spawning towards the tree clusters behind his base. Like, if you check the back of Purple's base, you'll see that he's got the berries, the deer, double gold, and then north of that, you've got all these tiny tree clusters that make it a little bit viable to protect when you need to expand.
Yeah. I mean, so Numudan has really defensive base, right? He has the deer pretty much straight on top of his gold, so it means it's really easy to actually move out on those, secure 2 resources with 1. And his wood line is pretty okay as well, right? I don't think we'll see anything out of the ordinary. So far, from what I've seen of Starflark and what I played against him, he's not...
He's an orderly player.
He is not the very creative player. Like, he will not do a lot of shenanigans. Which I'm a little bit sad about, because I always like seeing shenanigans. But he does it to great effect, right? He does it really well.
I'm glad you followed up with that because, like, for a moment that was sounding really... He's not creative at all, right? Like, this is teacher-parent conference. You're like, he's really bad at art, but he's getting solid Bs in maths.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the things that is worth noting, by the way, is that one of the people that actually lurks in Starflark's Twitch chat a lot is actually Vortex.
Oh yeah.
So... And Vortex actually types a little bit, so, they seem to be pretty good friends, and Starflark actually getting a little bit of help from Vortex certainly does help a little bit, so potentially you might see a little bit of that coming through.
I'm pretty sure Starflark is also the highest ranked South American player, right?
now I regret adding just country on AOE4 World and not region.
There you go, man. Like, yeah, you could have flexed him even wider. I mean, it's kind of I really always am rooting for people like Starflark to come through because I just
Mm.
I'm kind of tired of Europe dominating, and I say that as okay. I know Brexit happened. I think I'm allowed to say I'm still European. I kind of get sick of how we dominate a lot of it. I'm so glad that we've got the Canadians now clashing. I'm so glad we've got the rise of China. I'd love to see some South American reps starting to go deep in these tournaments.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind that either, right? Any new player is good in my book. And yeah, but I think I'm just scrolling through quickly. I'm not doing all of the countries, but yeah, it seems to be the hype. Pretty decent margin, actually. Now, Numudan did go for a really early tower, and Starflark is actually floating a lot of gold here, which actually kind of indicates to me that it still wants
It's
to go
pro
for Pro
scouts.
Scouts.
Yeah.
And
So
about those Pro Scouts built, I'm gonna get my notebook real quick, so just yap for a second.
is this the notebook of your win losses with the pro scouts or like people in general?
No, build orders. Build orders.
Oh, okay. Well, it's coming in very early. I like this approach, by the way. I think I've commented about this before with French or Jean. If you want to do pro scouts, you should not sacrifice that first night. That
Yes,
first night
100%.
is so impactful. We have got an outpost up, so Numudan has made the appropriate reaction. Interestingly enough, we used to see a quick wall in the center of the map here before Season 9. Even though it's a small distance, it's still substantially longer to wall that off. So I think the reason why you're not seeing Numudan attempt that wall is he would get intercepted just before he completes it by this first night.
Yeah, the first night, right? It's gonna have. It usually has a lot of impact. However, Numudan, instead of getting that second cistern, he's actually going to be just going with a tower, upgrading it using his stone that he gets for free, upgrade it, get arrow slits, and then he's gonna get more stone for free and still get a cistern.
Yay. The systems are just so obnoxious in this matchup. Like, in most, they feel great, right? But we mentioned already, because that sacrifice is Jean, it's just going to make you feel even worse. Like, normally French versus Byzantines, you feel a little bit better because you do ramp an Eco Vines to at least kind of balance things out. But Western plus the Limitane is just very smart here. You want the Western because it gives you a way of sniping Jean no matter the form. That's why it's better than Javs for this one. Because, like, naturally, what Numudan has assumed is that Starflark can't go ranged. Because, like, if you think about the worst things to choose range Jean against, it's anything that can build javelins. Even if it's just the potential to build javelins, because you invite it. So
even longbows.
Yeah, right. But the thing about longbows is they will still kill either form of Jean. It's just jabs will do it much quicker against range form, right? And that's why we saw, ironically, you know, even if you look across history, we're taking to the extremes here. Of, like, every time Jean runs into the English, it feels like a bad day for her because the longbows just get a free snipe.
Yeah, the classic. Now, ooh, okay. Getting a nice charge there, taking a little bit of damage in return, though. So, looks like Starflark, he decided to go up to 4 scouts, which I think it's a good number when you have locked in your opponent. You want to go 4 or 5. Could be potentially greedy with even 6 if you really, really want to contest your opponent. But if you really look at how the deer is for Numudan all the way in the back, good luck, buddy, taking that without having to micro each individual scout every single time, because that your scout will just path right straight through the enemy space. Now you're just griefing yourself, and you might even potentially be looking at a little bit of fine for boosting your opponent.
It's interesting, actually, because, like, while Pro Scouts is good, sometimes I just feel like in these situations, you have to ask the question whether you felt like you needed it. There's clearly something in Starflark's mind that Numudan's going to attack him soon, right? Because, like, you know, if you didn't think you would be attacked, you just play Classico French, which is walk out, gather on these different locations. But you did mention someone earlier that makes it a bit harder for Jean, is that you don't get those cheaper mills, so, like, it can add up quite quickly over time. The deer at the back, he can leave, actually, doesn't need them in a rush, because the reality is Numudan just wants berries. Berries are his priority. Now, what's interesting is actually, right now, I think Starflark is using all 4 scouts to gather. One thing that I have been noticing with this Pro Scouts meta that is an exploitable negative is that people don't scout anymore, right? So, like, the reason that's important here isn't because you don't know what your opponent's doing, it's because you want a heads up when your knights are about to run into Limitane. So instead of having 1 scout here, which could give those early warnings, there's now a risk that Starflark could just start hemorrhaging knights when he tries to aggro.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the things that I've been personally working on as well, right? It's just like having a scout always. And it's hard. It's hard to keep track of because you just like I want all the food.
Yeah,
But look at this though. Like Numudan is going for a very standard play here. It's actually going for longbows and then it's getting +1 range damage. Uh, Starflark a little bit delayed on his archers here, so he can't really fight this heads on, and that's going to be a bit of a problem because he will not have any food to fall back on. Because his deer will be contested underneath the TC just because of how longbows interact with anything. And they don't interact with anything because they just have that long over range.
So to that point, Starflark actually made the right move to block that problem. He has got the deer on the north side, right? But the gold is a bigger problem. You know, you're a civ that really relies on his ability to build knights, and now you're not going to be able to do so. And first blood drawn, 2 villages going down. Numudan just picking up some freebies. Undermesh is immediately prioritized by Starflark, makes a lot of sense, but the problem is you're up against Mass Limitana. You actually need Steeled Arrow just as quickly here. These are all very expensive things for a guy who theoretically shouldn't be allowed to touch gold.
Could even potentially look for a pretty decent flank here, though.
It's
a good charge as well, though. I would not be the saddest about potentially trading a knight if you could get all 5 of them. Instead,
no, the Lombos are getting a double kill.
Yeah,
that is vile.
Oh, it's 3 knights. What was a good trade turned into a really sour one. Still takes down a little bit of the longbows, but you know, there's another batch of longbows on the way, right? And
yeah.
I don't know too much about how much XP JD got, but I think she got a little bit.
Maybe 8, 16. She really wasn't here for much, but there you go. The Cleave's going to come through. Jean de Cleve getting the 18 there. So Lombo's are dead, sure, but I mean, the Limited account is high, and here's the interesting thing about Jean de Cleve. You think it's really good against spears until you realize how many cleaves you need to kill spearmen. And these Limitane have more health than standard spears. So stuff like needs to be really careful, because if he just slightly oversteps, you're just going to see the Limitane turn around, move in on top of her, and then she will die.
Yeah, and it's really, really tough, right? Because now, Byzantines, when they play feud like this, plays a little bit like Delhi, where it's like you take one good fight and it just snowballs. But the problem with Byzantines is you take one bad fight, and then they still just have more than you because their production is just so insane. Their ability to remass is crazy with the cisterns, right? With the buff.
Yeah, the fundamental issue is, like, if you're not attacking their economy in that trade, then they just get the next wave, right? Like, that's always been the pain of this civ.
So what I would like to see here from Starflark is a little bit hard, and I enjoy doing this very much. 3 knights of groups. Sorry, three knights of groups. 3 groups of knights. Sorry. Second language.
Are you sure it's not 3 gikes of noobs?
No.
Okay.
3 groups of knights, just spread them around, see if you can find something. Because you have a window here, right? Now the first berry patch has run out, so there's no point in attacking the front of the base. You see this moving out, so obviously something is happening. And your next kind of step is like, okay, yeah, he was moving out to the next berry patch, so it's either on the north side or the south side. But what we also see in addition here is Numudan has taken a good fight as Byzantine. He can just age up now, and Starflark can't really do anything about this because he needs to be investing in a couple of knights, which won't do anything against the Limitane. And in the long run, when Numudan gets up to maybe 20 longbows into 2 more batches of longbows, knights won't do anything against longbows either.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, if you're too delayed in your upgrades coming through, these Lombos all of a sudden start shooting you like you're wearing plastic armor. And I think Starflark, the other problem is just adding so many archers at this phase, at a point in the game where they're about to become moot and irrelevant. Jean attempting a dive in and learning very quickly why the English do not like her. Those English Lombos almost just sniper her now. In fact, doesn't quite get enough in range. Wait, what? No! Oh, the pathing there. Starflark opting to just keep running north and then go around, but jumps the gun, loses Jean, has to immediately buy a back, which is going to slow down his own tech up timing. And now we have Numudan adding in the cataphracts.
So this is one of the few times and one of the few situations where I just go like, should have gone ranged, should have gone to Specsavers.
I mean, the What, you mean range for Starflark?
Yes.
So here's the thing. I'll defend it from the logic of like Numudan actually boldly chose Western, I think, before even seeing the choice on John, if I'm not
It
mistaken.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like, longbows will deal with Jean. Like she will deal with them so well.
Well, no. But the point is, if you are range on, you can actually skirt the fight better, right? But the catch that I'm getting to here is if your opponent sees that you go range on, they just choose javelins, you die, right? So like,
Yeah.
that's the logic. Is longbow versus Jean is a huge movement speed difference to make up for the range gap, so you can at least skirt the fights. That's why like I've seen people go Jean ranged against this, but as I said, every time they do that, their opponent is just waiting on the Merc house, and they go javelins afterwards. At which point, it looks like the worst choice. Like, great, it's the type of choice that makes a conk player look like a bronze. It doesn't feel good to play into javelins. So, like, in some ways, I respect what Starflark done. The problem really came down to an early point, which is that he didn't go for these raids, and now he finds himself trying to lay in the center here, allows the Guildhall tech up to come through. He's going to have 8 knights to upgrade, but we're already going to be talking about 4 cataphracts in response for Numudan.
Yeah, and French and JD in return actually can deal okay-ish with the cataphracts, as long as they're not in mass. Like, if you're outmassed, obviously, like, cataphracts just win. But JD with the healing and also the bonus charge damage actually allows you to deal with them pretty okay. And by heal, I mean, like, the JD just AoE heal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that is true for melee Jean, because I never play melee Jean. I just play ranged melee Jean.
So here's the bigger issue: is like no matter the form, if your position is slightly off, what the cataphracts can do is just block your retreat and surround you, right? Like
100%.
that's where trample is useful. So we got a push coming in here. A minute arm switch from Starflark is furious. He needed Arbalest, but I think he understands the amount of Arbalest he needs to defend this is just not feasible. Flash coming in. John,
And,
she's dead.
well, I was about to say 2 volleys, but she got 3 mainly because she was able to heal. And, well, this fight now, buyback immediately comes through. Knight's going to be tanking on the front line here.
All right, 3 more volleys, let's go.
Limit Holly number is going down. She managed to get maybe, I think, 18 XP there, and we're starting to realize why JD is not that strong against English anymore.
JD basically got a participation ribbon in this game. Let's call it what it was, Cal. She was not able to really have any substance, any relevance in these engagements. Lombo's being thinned out a little bit, but the cataphract count is still looking good. The knight count is shrinking. And with Starflark pivoting more and more into men-at-arms, this is the cries of a man who just doesn't have the resource efficiency to justify mass knights, right? I don't think you want to be going men-at-arms here. Ideally, you want to be going knights now that Limitane have started to be wiped out. But at this point, also, we have to keep in mind, if you look at Starflark's vision, you know, he has no scouts. He has no idea what's coming. So he's just assuming that it's going to be more spears. When hilariously, we can just see Numudan is on pause, right? He's waiting to see what Starflark does next first.
And what is a really, really dominant... Oh my god, it's good. I mean, that's from Golden Tower. Yeah, I don't think he's been producing those. But
no, those are free.
What looks and usually is a really good matchup for JD, Numudan has managed to turn on its head. With that early tower and with just like being able to play so defensive, able to mass up with longbows, he has turned this matchup on his head and has shown exactly why Numudan is such a strong player. This player has, for Numudan, he's been gone for, I want to say 6 months. Not played competitive at all. I think he's played 2 KPMMs. Yeah. And he shows up and he just has such a great understanding and such a dominating performance against this.
You know, I'm starting to wonder that you say he's been gone for 6 months. That sounds like a certain farmer right now. I don't know if he's maybe a Swedish farmer. I don't really know what you'd farm in Sweden, probably ice cubes. But either way, I mean, Numudan, someone keeps him busy, but when he comes back for this love for AoE 4, he loves to win, and this is looking dominant. What he's done in this game is essentially put the opportunity for control in Starflark's hand and says, prove you can break me. Right now, like an ice cube melting too quick, Starflark is the one that cracks. Game 1 will be going to Numudan, but folks, don't worry, we are into the round of 32. There's at least one more to come, and Starflark still has a competent draft to fall back on, but this one can't be inspiring confidence for him. Numudan gave an opportunity for Starflark to show that he can outmic or outskill, and Numudan made it look trivial.
Yeah. So Yeah, this game kind of done and dusted. Starflark, he again, like he looked really good. I think there was just like translating the knight and maybe potentially, I'm not sure. I would have to try it out a little bit myself, but it feels like maybe the pro scout was a little bit of a it delayed him a little bit too much, mainly considering the archer mass that you need. Because usually what you do in this matchup, and this was before pro scout meta, is you kind of just go triple archer range. And then you just like spam it, and then you just run it down, and then you just dive. Um,
Starflark makes a lot of sense, but the problem is you're
So
up
yeah,
against Master Matana. You actually need
we
stilled
do see
arrows
some
just as
highlights
quickly.
here, though.
These
I mean,
are
this
all very
started off as a
expensive things
really
for a
nice
guy
catch.
who theoretically shouldn't
To
be
be
allowed to
fair,
touch gold.
the problem is just
This could
again, right? The
potentially look
archer
for
mass. There's
a
3
really
archers
decent
on the
flank
map
here,
right
though.
now
That's
for
Good.
Starflark, and only one of them is there, and he's not even fighting. So what looks to be a really nice flank there again, with like the longbows being charged. Yeah. So JD didn't even get any XP for that. So I think already there, you're kind of putting yourself in a much more rougher position than you ever needs to.
I mean, I think in general, Starflark, he took 2 conflicting approaches here. That fight there was him saying, I need to take a direct engagement, but around this has always been this idea of him trying to be fragmented and raidy. And I feel like after that fight, after that mistake got made, we never got to that raidy element. You mentioned the idea of branching off, having multiple knights going. It comes back to that. Starflark was torn on the strategy after what happened in that early game. Numudan at that point just had a cruise mode activated. So, you know, if there's any clear advice to give for Starflark that isn't Civ specific or build order specific, it's whatever your strategy is that you lean into, commit to it, or make sure that whatever you are switching to, you switch to wholly and it's worth it. Because I think there was just a little bit of indecisiveness that came in after that fight near the boar in the south side that never really went away for Starflark. And a player like Numudan of his caliber is going to punish you the moment that indecisiveness arrives.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think it was just straight up indecisiveness. I think it was maybe just speed and just like I don't want to say execution, because I think it was executed really well, but maybe it's just like strategy, right? And again, Numudan just straight up just like played this super back. He just played normal Byzantines, popped out. Anyways, next game, I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah.
But now I just look like I'm just repeating what's on screen. Baldland has to be Sushi versus China.
Yeah. I mean,
And it is Sushi versus China. So
this
nice.
was an expectation, right? I think I said like at the start of the draft when we saw China and Juji come out, it's the matchup that you kind of don't want to see. It's basically a mirror, but the interesting one about this, I think it plays quite aggressively fast. Juji have been looking fairly favored in this matchup, to my understanding, in recent times, right? Which is kind of great to see. I mean, China has been looking dominant for a very long time, but Juji has been shaking the ship. They've been rising through the ranks. You know, we've gone from this time last year usually having 1 viable build to them having 4 viable builds. That's incredible to see. But it might not be incredible for Starflark, considering he's already 1 down. And it's going to be Numudan with the Juji. So it looks like Baldland is ready to beckon us in. I hope you guys like scouts, because you're going to be seeing a lot of them.
I mean, you should be on the lookout for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they'd see me first, because we are in a map that has quite a lot of deer. Welcome, my dears, to 30 deer on the map and 2 civs that are amongst the best at going pro scouts. Game number 2. Numudan, of course, will have the Juji. Starflark, a few different reasons why China can feel a little bit of a disadvantage here. China definitely getting some advantages on their economy early with the Imperial Academy, but it comes at a cost. If there's Zhuge Nu involved, Juji will have a quicker timing. If there's Fast Castle involved, Juji will have a quicker timing due to Tang Dynasty. These type of things can be a stinger. And if you're on a map where the gods have blessed you, like I think Numudan potentially might have been, then Meditation Garden will also favor you as Juji. Are the berries in range of each other on that south side? Okay, no, it's just far enough away.
Luckily.
He could probably get 48 food in total, plus the gold.
I think you just.
I think you go for the food and gold, right?
Yeah,
like that,
you just
or
go
that,
for that.
ooh.
That was the one
Okay.
I wanted. Thank you for the
Yep.
That's definitely the one you want to go for. Now,
The
can
48
we...
food, 22 wood, 25 gold. Yeah.
Nah, 22 wood is way too much. You gotta be way too much to lift. So yeah, Numudan, no, sorry, Starflark, my bad. IO-less opening, kind of just chilling. Wait, there's no IO? Oh, there's no
No,
IO.
the Imperial Academy build, you just don't go IO.
Yeah.
So you rush Feudal Age, and then you just start pumping the IOs out cheaper. I mean, I know Crackly is going to be somewhere. He's going to be like actually pushing his glasses up his nose, pointing out about how like he can't understand, it doesn't feel efficient, but like players don't seem to feel like they lose anything out in the grand scheme, which means in the grand scheme of things you end up with one villager extra, right? So I think we went from like a divided community on whether you should go IO or not to everyone just not bothering with the Imperial official.
So the thing about the Imperial
Eh?
official, he just wants it safe. He just wants it safe.
Can we check
He gets
vision?
stone and gold. He gets stone and gold.
Yeah, but check vision. No, there's your bigger problem. I had a feeling it was going to happen. Because you don't come to your back corner first, right? Like that just sounds silly. You want to get to the center resources that are contested. So yeah, unfortunately, Numudan is eventually going to discover that there was quite a healthy and safe option just behind the base.
So, I mean, this is still it's still a really good it's still a really good meditation garden. Like, I'm assuming this based on the fact that, like, with his placement, he has to have gotten both gold, stone, and the full berry pack. He doesn't get wood that much, which is a little bit of an issue on this map. Like, you can run out of it.
Yeah.
And you're forced to mow out. Actually, this
Yeah,
is
can we? Why not
this
just
might
there?
be the first time. Yeah, why not there?
Let's
This
just walk
actually
out.
might be the first time I've actually seen Baldland spawn with a hole in the big woods.
No, dude, I've seen it so many times. I still don't know what causes it. I don't know if it's biome related that makes it more likely. But whether you're a Roost player or a GG player, there's just so many times where I'm like, I mean, it might be one tree too thin, but it kind of feels like it's worth exploring, you know? Okay, hear me out. What you do is you do the meditation garden, then Jiangnan, and then every minute, like you're pretty much just having a building paid for.
No.
You don't want to Jiangnan it up?
No.
Oh, I guess you like winning games.
I do like winning games.
Such a tryhard.
Indeed. So, we'll have to see though. I mean, Pro Scouts obviously coming through. It's coming through as quickly as you possibly can, supervising that one up, so just making sure that that one's coming through as well. Dropping that stable to produce some extra scouts, and we'll have to see what the response is from Numudan as to say that there's barracks and some spears in queue.
Which is quite surprising, actually. Numudan, how many sheep did he get? Because he's going to need a lot to justify this. Okay, so 16 is pretty decent. Numu, what you can do is you can send the spears down to the center to try and block deer, and then fast castle. But okay, he's actually going for. I'm a bit confused over the spear choice. Like, this is a gamble, right? Like, you don't know where those scouts are gonna go. Oh, less. But
Do you though?
But like, China sees you doing this, right? Sees you seeing him. So now you just dodge.
It's the mind game. So. This is the interesting thing, though, right? I know a lot of people like complain about Pro Scouts, how it's just terrible. For the meta, it just like feels so boring every single game. Everything just looks the same. We are still seeing a lot of things as a response, because what I normally would have gone as a response and thought of as a response is you could have gone for Horseman, right? You already have the stable. You can already just supervise it, and he's just like,
oh, I think
this is mine now.
And I think I see the picture through the forest. Because now Starflark sees this, he's going to want to react archers, right? But if you react archers, you're going to face Jugnu. Do you see the conundrum now?
I'm starting to see it.
This is the crafty thing. Like, there's been a lot of situations historically where Juji has been criticized because they can't build archers, and it sucks. But if you can bait and switch your opponent correctly, it's actually a big advantage. The funny part is Starflark may be aware of that and doesn't want to play into it. He's opening a Horseman now instead. The problem is you've just seen your opponent has Spearmen.
Just scout your opponents. You have so many of them.
I mean, we do, but also everyone's really hungry. You know, they could have a nice doner kebab, but they really, really, really want venison tonight. Now, I could tell them that they need to just shut up and eat what they're given, as I should, being a dad of two. But I feel like I want to spoil them. And apparently, pro scout players feel the same way, which is why they always just don't scout.
So, we do now see that Numudan has started to make some horsemen, and we do have what you expected, right? There is going to be a couple of archers that is going to be spotted. So, where do we go from here, right? Do we just end up having spear horseman versus horseman archer?
I mean, this is, you know where this is going.
Shugunus.
There's going to be Jugunu. And the Starflark doesn't have Barbican. So, not such a happy day for him, right? Like, if this turns into a long feudal, Numudan should have the edge. Starflark, he's 1-1-1 now, so we got Rax added in. Like, this is the point that Numu should have been waiting for. I mean, he got two choices, right? You crap or get off the pot. And I think he's going to sit on the... I think he's actually going to, like, you know, just crap out of Castle Age here. Judging by his resources, he doesn't care about this.
Yeah, what I wanted to say before you said it, just let Starflark overinvest and go castle.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, what is the threat now? Oh, wow, you have a handful of archers. Well, guess what? I have racks, I have stables. Now, what buildings do I need in Castle Age to build armored units, Cal?
Well, that's a trick question, because Numudan can already build armored units.
And he could start building those as he's teching up.
Yeah. I mean,
this is...
I'm getting us some good, decent traits there, actually.
Yeah, Numu, I think, was getting a bit ambitious. There's enough deer to go around. I think he got slightly more sheep as well in the opening. It's just all about timing now, right? Like, you know, just don't throw away your units, because if you do, then Starflark is going to try to move towards your base and block out all the deer being returned.
Yeah, Mount Blue Academy coming in.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to be seeing
We're
PG
going to
flood,
be
right?
we're going to be seeing a lot of palace guards.
This is cool. Now, could Numudan be the first player that I've cast to do this build right? Because
I've yelled at him. Numudan is in the list of people I've yelled at to do this.
there has been multiple players, I think, like even very talented ones, right? Like shout out to Anatan. I've seen him do this build 3 times, and every time he gets the unique tech in the Mount Blue Academy that doubles supervision speed, he forgets to stop supervising the racks to get the increased production speed. So a little tip for people with that. If you want that Zerg effect, once the tech completes, which is right there, it's the one to the right there, the regional inspection. If you want regional inspection to work, once it completes, you need to stop supervising and re-supervise. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah, fun little tidbit there, and some janky coding, but it's all good. Barbican coming up now as well. So, gonna be securing himself. So, here's a little thing. I would not have minded that Barbican more backwards into his base, so it would have covered his TC.
Yeah. His bigger issue here is he's going to need a lot of people on gold. He's going to need someone, some way they can be protected, right? It's the Barbican's good garrison slot.
Yes.
I kind of get where he's coming from, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, but like my point is, like, if he moves it further away so that his TC is also under Barbican, it means that he will have a bigger area that villagers can work in, and I'm trying my best to ignore this.
Yeah, this should be censored. This is not child friendly. Did he kill one? I think he killed a horseman and a spearman and lost everything else there.
Yep.
So Starflark is in a really bad position here, because by the time he techs up, we should be looking at 10 pass guard, probably 6 lancers coming towards him.
Yeah, he's not even like supervising this. I don't even think he got the attack right. No, he did.
No. Can we check his IO count? Usually at this point you have 3 with the Shuji build. He might be on 2. No, he's on 3. Okay. Interesting. So he's what? Supervising the food, wood, and stables?
Potentially. Or one collecting.
He's just taxing, yeah. Okay, so he's prioring the tax.
Yeah. So, yeah, not all of the dare has been picked up just yet, so still some pro scout going behind this, but it's not really that important. Astronomical clock tower now coming through, and my fear right now is that his castle is actually going to just kill him. Like, I understand him, he needs to go cost, right? Because he needs to be able to get a lot of... He needs to be getting crossbows out, right? Because of the man-at-arms squad. The main thing for me is actually, why didn't you go Imperial Palace here? If you went Imperial Palace, you can see a little bit, you get more vision, you can actually use that vision a little bit more, right? To actually position yourself. Because Less Obese is not going to be doing anything realistically against Mass Palace Guard. Like, that is the counter, right? So if you're able to get vision and position your crossbows accordingly, you can have a better defense.
But hear me out, Cal. He could build Springles.
Go away, B.
Maybe he's inspired. B, he won the tournament last week. Well, just the other day, actually, by doing that. Mass Springles, guys. It's a way of life. I don't think I'm convincing anyone.
No, you're not. But
Right.
Clockwork Nessus. Clockwork Springles.
There you go. Now you've convinced me, Cal.
Yeah, that I didn't expect that to be very hard.
Well, I am a flexibly minded person, right? We do have regional inspection coming in now, by the way. He's also got his hands on the whip reform, so we have the movement speed. And Jiangnan as well. So Numu, I mean, he's prepping for the necessity to eventually go into farms. I don't even think the game necessarily needs to go that deep. One thing I really like, by the way, about this type of build compared to the Shaolin Monastery is because you built units in the feudal age, you don't really need monks to protect themselves, right? It would be much better just to have the army you built protect the monks and spend half the resources on a monk instead. Or right, not half, but 75%. Which you can also supervise to get them out expediently quick. So, what's Starflark's win condition now? We're probably going to be looking at a game where he won't be able to contest relics. He needs to get the crossbow mount to survive and then look for a farm transition. The awkward part is, like, we're approaching a point in the game where even with pro scouts, with the way you're resourcing your food, you're going to need to do 2 TC while also going farms. That's a big ask.
You can, though.
I mean, that's true. You can do
you get so
anything
much
now.
you get so much free resources, right? The biggest problem is it going to kill you?
Yeah, like, I can eat 12 kilos of chocolate a day, but it will probably kill me. I think Starflark has his own chocolatey conundrum here. I mean, the other worry I have is this attack.
So
He's gonna get dough first.
Starflark is just a little bit ahead of me. Like, what I wanted to say is, like, Starflark's way to actually get a little bit of damage here and get some room for himself is splitting up Palace Guards in groups of, like,
Yeah,
2,
but
3.
this is the problem, right? Like, the timing wasn't right for that. Numudan was already circling the base like sharks. Look at the mini-map. He was waiting for this moment. So Starflark, well, the idea is good. The timing is just not there. Willow's coming out to protect. There is a dive on the south side as well, but that's being mirrored, and these Lancers already mopping up several more kills. The defense army is already in position to deal with Starflark's raiders.
Yeah, and this is so rough as well, right? Because you already have so much production at home, because Sushi just does that. And you don't even need that much production because we have the regional inspection here, so 300% boost on these productions as well. I think it's, what are we up to, 6 seconds on the Palace Guard? And yeah, he sees the two relics, 5 relics in the back.
He sees 2 relics, he sees 2 CCs, he says there is no hope, no way. So a 2-0 victory for Numudan. Really dominant on the draft, really dominant on the execution, and a big reminder to kick off 2025 for people. You know, China, I've talked a lot about how they're an S-tier civ at this point, it feels like. There's usually really not far behind them, and in this specific matchup, actually favored.
Yeah, and meditation garden difference?
I mean, by that logic, if he found the one in the corner, this would have been over at 10 minutes.
Could have been.